After my grandfather died, we all gathered for the will reading. I'd taken care of him for years, doctor visits, late-night calls, all of it. The lawyer opened the folder and read, "To my granddaughter, I leave her nothing. She knows why." My aunt shot me a look across the room and said, "Maybe you shouldn't have told him about our family investments." Turns out, she'd been stealing from his account for months and told him I was the one draining it. I'm writing this because if I don't, I might explode. Here's how my family ruined my life and how I made sure they lost everything. This happened about 2 years ago in Kentucky. I'm still piecing everything back together. But trust me when I say, they'll never recover from what they did. Growing up, Grandpa Walter was my hero. My dad took off when I was just a baby. Mom was there, but not really there, if you know what I mean. She worked odd jobs, drank too much, and spent most nights passed out in front of the TV. Grandpa filled in the blanks. He taught me everything: how to ride a bike, how to change a tire, how to balance a checkbook. When I hit 18, he even helped me get my first real job at a hardware store he used to visit every Saturday. By the time I was 25, Grandpa's health started failing. First small things, forgetting dates, missing steps. Then bigger stuff. Heart attacks, blood pressure issues, confusion. It wasn't even a decision. I moved into his old brick house outside Lexington without a second thought. My aunts and uncles? They barely showed up. Aunt Marlene came by maybe once every couple months. She always brought a casserole and fake smiles, then disappeared just as fast. Uncle Rick? I think I saw him twice in 3 years. It was me wiping Grandpa's mouth when he couldn't hold a spoon. Me sleeping in chairs at the ER at 3 a.m. Me arguing with insurance companies when they screwed up his prescriptions. I loved him. I owed him my life. I thought he knew that. Grandpa passed on a gray Saturday morning. He went quietly in his sleep. I sat next to his bed for hours afterward, holding his cold hand, feeling like my chest was splitting open. The funeral was small. Some old neighbors, a few co-workers, family members who hadn't shown their faces in years. After the service, we met at Mr. Crane's office, Grandpa's lawyer. It was this old dumpy building with peeling paint and a broken front step. I remember thinking it smelled like sadness. We all crowded into this little conference room, me, Marlene, Rick, and a few others. Mr. Crane opened a battered manila folder and started reading. "To my son Richard, I leave him my tools and workshop." Fine. Grandpa loved those old tools. "To my daughter Marlene, I leave her my vintage coin collection." Again, fine. She always liked junk like that. Then he cleared his throat and said, "To my granddaughter, I leave her nothing. She knows why." The whole room froze. I felt like I'd been slapped. I just stared at him, willing him to say he'd misread it. But he didn't. He just looked down at the papers, tight-lipped. I saw Marlene glance at me, this smug little glint in her eye. She shifted in her seat, crossed her legs, and said, "Loud enough for everyone. Maybe you shouldn't have told him about our family investments, sweetie." And then she smiled. I didn't understand. I didn't get it. Not then. But oh boy, I would. The days after the funeral were a blur. Packing boxes. Canceling utilities. Making calls. I had about a week to get my stuff out of Grandpa's house. It wasn't mine anymore, thanks to that will. I spent hours in the attic, sorting through dusty boxes. That's where I found it. An old file cabinet wedged behind a pile of broken Christmas decorations. Inside were hundreds of documents. Bank statements, insurance policies, handwritten notes. At first, I didn't think much of it. Then I found the bank records. Withdrawals. Big ones. At first small, $2,000 here, $3,500 there. Then bigger, $10,000, $15,000 almost monthly. Marked as family investments or partnership disbursements. Every withdrawal had a signed authorization form. Except the signatures weren't right. They looked like Grandpa's, But they weren't. Not even close if you really knew his writing. My stomach dropped. I started digging. Hidden among the papers were receipts, fake invoices, wire transfer slips to weird banks overseas, all tied back to Marlene's name. I sat there on the attic floor for hours, the dusty air choking me. It all clicked. Marlene had been stealing from Grandpa for months, maybe years. And she told him it was me. She made him believe I was draining his savings. He must have been so confused, scared, angry, and he died thinking I betrayed him. I can't describe that kind of heartbreak. But I can describe the rage that followed. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. After finding the forged documents, I tried talking to my mom first. She looked at me like I was crazy. "Your aunt wouldn't do that," she said. "She helped pay for the funeral." Right. A funeral she paid for with stolen money. I even tried showing her the paperwork, the signatures, the weird transfers. She refused to even look. "Your grandpa said what he said. Let it go." Let it go? I gave up my job, my apartment, my life to take care of him. Marlene hadn't even changed a bedpan. And she walked away with a coin collection worth over $20,000 and no consequences. That was when I knew I had to do this myself. But I wasn't stupid. I knew I needed help. And I knew I couldn't afford a big-time lawyer. So I called the one person I could trust, Daniel. Daniel and I went to high school together. We weren't best friends, but we used to sit next to each other in computer class. He was one of those quiet guys who always had 3 monitors running and drank Monster at 8 a.m. He went on to work in cybersecurity in Lexington. I hadn't talked to him in years. I messaged him on Facebook. He replied within an hour. When I told him what was going on, he didn't laugh or call me crazy. "You got any of the files?" he asked. I sent him pictures. 10 minutes later, he texted back, "These are fakes. Sloppy ones. I can help." That's when everything started. Over the next 3 weeks, Daniel and I worked like we were building a bomb. He showed me how to look up shell corporations, how to track wire transfers through routing numbers, how to map out the flow of money from Grandpa's accounts to offshore ones. What we found was worse than I thought. Not only had Marlene drained almost $180,000 from Grandpa's savings, she'd done it using fake LLCs, businesses that didn't exist. Set up in states like Delaware and Nevada, where the ownership records were hard to trace. But Daniel traced them. Each company was tied to a burner email address. And those emails were linked to a cell phone plan under Marlene's name. We also found digital receipts, timestamps, metadata, location tags. It was airtight. But there was more. Guess who had a joint access signature on one of the business accounts? Uncle Rick. They were both in on it. They told Grandpa I was stealing. Meanwhile, they were bleeding him dry behind his back. We had the proof. But we needed a plan. Daniel warned me not to go public too early. They'll panic and hide the rest of the money. You want them to feel safe. So I played my part. I sent Marlene a sweet little text. "Hey, I know things were weird after the will. I just want us to move on. Grandpa loved you. Let's not fight over money." She responded in 5 minutes. "You're a good girl. Let's be family again, Heart." It made my skin crawl. I knew then she believed she'd won. So I played into it. I showed up at her house the next week with cookies. I asked about jobs, told her I was struggling, asked if she knew anyone hiring. She smiled and said she might have something for me at her husband's firm. The trap was set. While I was baking cookies and pretending to be broken, Daniel helped me find a lawyer. Her name was Christine Morales. She didn't smile much, but she listened. Hard. I gave her everything. The fake signatures, the shell companies, the withdrawals. She asked me one question. "Do you want your name cleared, or do you want to destroy them?" I didn't hesitate. Both. She nodded and got to work. In the state of Kentucky, financial elder abuse is a felony. Forgery? Also a felony. Wire fraud? Interstate crime. Christine began building the case, quietly. While I played nice at barbecues and smiled through clenched teeth, she was filing motions, talking to judges, gathering subpoenas. 3 months later, we made our move. It started on a Tuesday. Uncle Rick's doorbell rang at 8 a.m. Marlene got her visit the same morning. Subpoenas, demanding financial records, requesting appearances, asking about accounts they didn't think anyone knew existed. By Thursday, they were calling me. Marlene left 5 voicemails. "Sweetie, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Can we talk? Just you and me." I didn't answer. Rick tried texting. I blocked him. By the next week, their bank accounts were frozen. Christine had filed to contest the will, arguing fraud, coercion, and undue influence. And we had the documents, the timestamps, and the expert testimony to back it up. The look on Marlene's face when she saw me at the courthouse? Priceless. By the time the first court hearing came around, the family was already falling apart. Marlene tried to play it cool. She showed up in pearls and a pale pink dress like she was going to Sunday brunch. She even tried to give me a hug in the hallway outside the courtroom. I stepped back and said, "You stole from a dying man. Don't touch me." She looked around like she was embarrassed for herself. Not for what she did. Just because someone saw it now. Rick didn't even look at me. He kept his eyes on the floor, face bright red. Their lawyer, a cheap guy from Louisville with a spray tan and scuffed loafers, tried to argue that the money was gifted. Christine laughed in his face. We had timestamps. We had handwriting experts. We had everything. Still, the court process dragged. They always do. It took months. And during those months, the cracks got deeper. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised when Marlene and Rick turned on each other. 3 months into the proceedings, Christine showed me a copy of Rick's deposition. He blamed it all on her. I didn't even know she was moving money. She had access to the accounts. I thought it was legit. When we confronted Marlene with it during cross-examination, her whole mask cracked. Her voice shook. Her hands trembled. She said, "He told me to do it. He said Dad didn't need that money. He said he'd cover for me." She actually started crying. But nobody in that courtroom bought it. Especially not the judge. Especially not me. Word got around fast. My mom found out and stopped speaking to Marlene altogether. "I may be a lot of things," she said, "but I'm not a damn thief." Old neighbors started gossiping. Church people stopped inviting Marlene to Sunday events. Her daughter, my cousin, called me in tears one night. I didn't know, I swear. I just thought Grandpa got mean at the end. I told her it wasn't her fault, but I could hear it in her voice. The shame. And Rick? He got hit even harder. Turns out, he'd been using some of the stolen money to float his small contracting business. Once the funds dried up and the court froze his accounts, he started losing clients. Fast. His wife left him. His truck got repossessed. His business license was under review. The man who once bragged about owning 3 rental properties was suddenly asking for payment extensions at the local gas station. Just when I thought I had found every secret, I got a call from Mr. Crane, the same lawyer who'd read the will. "You should come in," he said. "There's something you need to see." I drove down that afternoon, stomach in knots. He slid a small envelope across the desk. "This was found in Walter's safe deposit box," he said. It wasn't listed with the rest of the estate because it was set aside privately. Inside was a letter. A real, handwritten letter. And it was from Grandpa. The writing was shaky but clear. If you're reading this, it means something's gone wrong. I didn't know who to trust near the end. Marlene told me things about you I didn't want to believe. But I was scared. My mind wasn't right. If I was wrong, and I hope to God I was, then I'm sorry. And if you can prove it, I hope you do. I sat there shaking. He didn't hate me. He doubted me because he was confused and scared and manipulated. But deep down, he knew something was off. He wanted me to find the truth. And now I had. After the letter from Grandpa, everything changed for me. It wasn't just about justice anymore. It was personal. That house, his house, was mine in every way that mattered. But legally, it was still in limbo. Christine filed new motions to freeze any property transfers until the fraud investigation ended. But Marlene? She wasn't waiting around. One Saturday morning, I drove by the house and saw a for sale by owner sign hammered into the front yard. I nearly crashed my car. She was trying to sell it. I stormed up to the front door and banged so hard I thought I might break it. She answered in sweatpants, holding a coffee mug like this was just any other day. "Oh, she said. "I didn't think you'd still be watching this place. You can't sell this house. You're under investigation." She shrugged. "It's still in my name for now. And I need to cover legal fees. Don't worry, I'll give you a tour when I'm rich again." I saw red. But I didn't scream. I just walked away. Then I called Christine. And Christine did what she does best. Within 48 hours, Marlene received a cease and desist letter. Then a restraining order against selling or altering any part of Grandpa's estate. Christine filed for emergency injunctive relief. We showed the judge the forged documents again. The bank statements. The shell companies. And now, Grandpa's letter. The judge didn't just block the sale. He slapped her with contempt. She had to pay a fine. Small, but humiliating. Public record. She lost it. Next thing I knew, she was calling my mom again, screaming about betrayal, loyalty, blood. Mom finally told her off. "You stole from your own father, Marlene. Don't talk to me about blood." A month later, Rick flipped completely. I don't know if he was scared of jail or just sick of Marlene, but his lawyer reached out with a proposal, a full confession. In exchange for immunity from criminal charges, Christine was hesitant. But I told her yes. If we could get one of them to flip, we could bury the other. And Rick didn't hold back. He handed over emails, texts, recordings, even copies of the fake business paperwork Marlene had printed from her home computer. He said she convinced him to go along with it, that she was saving the family legacy, that she promised he'd never get caught. He told the court, "I was a coward. I watched her lie to our father while he was dying. I knew it was wrong, but I was in too deep." The courtroom was dead silent. Marlene just stared at him like she'd never seen him before. The judge moved up the hearing to determine the final ruling on the estate. Christine says we're likely to win full reversal of the will, restoration of the assets, criminal referrals. Marlene could face jail. Rick? He might walk free. But his life's already in ashes. I still don't know what the ending will look like. But I do know one thing. Grandpa didn't leave me nothing. He left me truth. And I'm going to make damn sure that truth destroys the people who tried to steal my name, my home, and his legacy. We walked into the courthouse on a rainy Monday morning. I wore black again, just like I had at the funeral. Same dress, same shoes. It felt right. Christine carried 2 binders so full they looked like bricks. Marlene's lawyer looked like he'd aged 5 years. And Marlene, she looked hollow. No makeup. Greasy hair. Same pearls, though. Always clinging to her last image of dignity. Rick sat on the opposite side of the room. He didn't look at her once. The judge came in and wasted no time. He'd read every page, every statement, every piece of evidence. He gave a quick summary for the record. Forgery, elder abuse, financial fraud, attempted concealment of assets, abuse of power of attorney, multiple violations under Kentucky law. Then he looked at Marlene. You used your father's love and confusion to steal from him. Then you convinced him his granddaughter, his caregiver, was the thief. You divided a family. You exploited a man in decline. And you did it for money. She said nothing, didn't even cry this time, just stared at the floor. The court hereby voids the contested will. It is deemed invalid due to fraud and undue influence. The estate is awarded to the next rightful heir based on physical caregiving, consistent presence, and documented service. It is awarded in full to the granddaughter. I felt something in my chest finally loosen. Like I could breathe again for the first time in over a year. But it wasn't over yet. The judge continued. Additionally, this court refers Marlene, last name redacted, for criminal prosecution for elder financial abuse and forgery. Bail will be set pending charges. Marlene's lawyer tried to object. The judge shut him down with a single hand gesture. The bailiff came forward. When they placed her in cuffs, I didn't feel joy. I felt justice. She looked at me, lips trembling. Her eyes pleaded. Not for forgiveness, but for mercy. I gave her nothing. She gave Grandpa nothing when he needed her most. Rick didn't walk out smiling. He avoided jail by cooperating. But the court still ordered him to pay restitution. A lot of it. He lost his contracting business. His truck was repossessed. His ex-wife got full custody of their kids. He now lives in a one-bedroom apartment over a liquor store. Sometimes people ask if I feel sorry for him. I don't. He chose silence when he could have done something. I moved back into Grandpa's house a week after the ruling. The for sale sign was gone. The locks had been changed. I didn't fix it up right away. I left the living room just how he liked it. TV remote on the armrest, crossword puzzle open on the coffee table. One night, I sat there alone, and I read his letter again. And I cried like I hadn't since the day he died. Because now he knew the truth. And so did everyone else. I won't lie to you. I let anger drive me. I lied to Marlene's face. I set traps. I pretended to be weak when I was sharpening knives. And part of me loved watching her fall. I'm not proud of that. But I also don't regret it. Not when I think about the man who raised me, who died thinking I might have betrayed him. Not when I remember how helpless I felt sitting in that wall reading, surrounded by people who knew they had destroyed my name. Sometimes justice comes in quiet, legal forms. And sometimes you have to burn the whole house down to rebuild the truth.